beautiful ladies of the Empowered Woman Collective. Welcome to another Spiritual Whispers with myself. And today we're joined with Dayna. Hi, Dayna.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited. I love that title, Spiritual Whispers. Oh, it's so
Mhm. Mhm. So
yeah.
Dayna is she's a dear friend of mine who we've had the opportunity to work together in a few different capacities. We've had the opportunity to be in a different country together. We just kind of keep coming in and out of each other's lives in such a beautiful way. And we will be in New Zealand together as well. So someone that I hold a place in my heart very dear, as well as a really powerful guide when it comes to spiritual awakening and connecting into the vision of the conscious collective and what it is that's occurring. So I really wanted us to come together as an opportunity for you to just hear another voice speaking about what this pandemic situation is all about, so that we can come together as a collective and really support each other and support our hearts and what we need. So that's what we're doing here today. That's the point of these Spiritual Whispers. So Dayna, I'm just so happy that you're here. Do you want to maybe actually no, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself in a second after we start with our meditation, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, amazing. I love it.
Okay. So just before we begin, I'm going to guide us through a little meditation. I'm just going to do a little bit of smudging. Look at this incredible candle that I got. It's a beeswax candle. It cost me $40. I bought it at the health food store in town, and I am in love with it. And I've been lighting it all day, every day. And it lasts so long, much longer than a regular candle. So if you're watching, I just invite you to sit up nice and tall and begin to close your eyes, or at least just bring your attention inward towards your body, towards your breath, away from all of the thoughts that have been occurring all day. Maybe just welcome in some gentle movement, anything that just feels really fluid for your body and your breath. And as you start to bring your awareness into your breath, begin to notice the expansion that you can feel in your lungs as you take a nice deep inhale. And see if you can notice the gentle contraction as you release your breath through your nose. Just allowing this breath to move through your body fluidly, creating spaciousness, a sense of calming, peace, allowing you to become present in this moment, right here, right now. Knowing that as we tune into our breath, we are symbolizing to our bodies it's time to rest, it's time to repair, it's time to be nourished. And while we bring our attention to the feeling of that inhale, the feeling of the exhale, the feeling of being in this moment, we remember what it feels like to love ourselves. It's the deep, nourishing breath that allows us to feel supported, to feel grounded, to feel connected with one another. And while we are breathing all day, every day, it's this conscious, intentional breath, taking it to the bottoms of our lungs, that allows us to create this state of presence. Letting go of what has already occurred today, letting go of what may occur tomorrow, and just being with the beat of your heart and the rhythm of your breath. Holding space in your mind and in your heart to accept yourself as you are right now, to accept the emotions that you are flowing through, to accept the sensations that you feel in your body, perhaps of openness and fluidity, or stagnation and feeling stuck, knowing that all of these sensations are perfect. There is no one way that you are meant to be right now other than as you are. And as you breathe in that acceptance, notice how it feels to just let go, to let go of the judgment, to let go of the striving, to let go of the pressure of being someone or doing something, and instead being here, being you, being already enough. I'd like you to bring your internal gaze to the length of your spine, from the very bottom of your tailbone all the way up to the top of your skull, your full spine, the strength of your body, the stability here, your entire chakra system, all aspects of your being, holding you, honoring you, loving you, being you. Observing any sensations of vibrancy, any buzzing energy that may be flowing through your body, and saying thank you. Thank you to this body, this physical body, this energetic body, this emotional body that allows you to live life in every moment, every day, whether it's tears on the bathroom floor, running with joy down a hill with your children, eating the most delicious food you could ever dream of, whatever it is that you are able to do with this body, honor that and say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If it feels right, bring both your hands to your heart. And just take a few breaths as you breathe into your heart here. Consciously creating space for your emotions, for your sensations, your feelings, and your beliefs. Honoring the woman that you are, the entirety of who you are, your wholeness, your completeness, everything that you see as a fault, everything that you see as a joy, honoring all of you right now. I'd like you to think of one word or essence or energy that you desire so deeply to feel. I want you to offer that to yourself right now. Perhaps it's to feel loved, to feel safe, to feel whole. Anything that you desire, allow yourself to give it to you right now. And then turn your gaze outward and think of every other human being on this entire planet. Offer them that exact same essence, that exact same word, knowing that what you crave, what you desire, what you long for, they deserve to. Reminding ourselves of how interconnected we are and how beautiful that is, that when we fill ourselves with love, we are in turn filling others with the love that they desire as well. Just taking a breath in to that strength and power that you have within your thoughts and your intentions. Let's take one deep inhale together. Breathe in through your nose. And as you exhale, sigh out through your mouth and shake your shoulders. Gently begin to open your eyes. Notice your surroundings. Observing all of the things, the images, everything that you see around you. Dayna, how are you?
I feel really great. Thank you for that. That was really amazing.
You are most welcome. And ladies, those of you who are watching, whether with us now or in the replay, comment in and let us know how you feel as well. I want to know, how's your heart in this moment? How's your body feeling? We're so happy that you're here. And Dayna, why don't you share with us whatever feels right to share about who you are? Who's Dayna?
Yeah, absolutely. My word that came through during your meditation as well was intention, and that felt really beautiful and expansive. I think one thing that we're all feeling right now is, what's our intention and what's our purpose? And I think that came through for me, for everyone. So I just wanted to share that. And when it comes to my story, I'd say that a large part of my journey was exploring exactly that. What is my intention? What is my purpose here? What am I meant to do? And not just do because it's the thing that's going to build a successful business or the thing that's going to, help people, although that of course is something that I want to do, but what's going to ultimately give me fulfillment and joy. And Dayna has been a beautiful, shining light and guide throughout that journey. I'm really grateful that our paths crossed when they did, which was a couple of years ago for me now, when I was going through a very transitional time in my spiritual journey, in my personal development journey, and really becoming who I am. I was, for the first time, stepping into what does it look like to release other people's expectations of me? What does it look like to truly show up as who I am and be intentional about that and let go of other people's preconceived judgments in order to own my authenticity and what my spirit is here to do. So I met Dayna a couple of years ago when I was on that transitional time. I was leaving my partner of 7 years. I'd been with the same person basically my whole adult life. I had just started exploring spirituality and the world of energetics and manifestation and was really confused about what spirituality was versus religion and what it meant for me to be spiritual and how I could ground into my truth without taking on other people's projections that were close to me in my life about what that meant. And I am now, living a completely different life than I was.
Different. So different.
Not even close. Just a couple of years ago, Dayna laughs because, she's been here through that evolution. When we met, I was in a very, very different place in a very different time of my life. And it's amazing how quickly the growth and the change happens and how exponential and quantum that becomes when you do open up and become available for receiving, when you open up and become available for receiving the miracles of synchronicity, the magic that is, being in the energetic and spiritual world. We talk about, you hear these terms like alignment and spirituality and manifestation, and they're knowledge that's really important, but they only become wisdom once you've integrated them through your own personal experience. And that requires a lot of surrender and a lot of solidarity of self and willingness to go deep with you inside. And so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And I used to be, in a basement suite in Calgary with no money and was, crying myself to sleep every night going through my divorce, having just told my husband that I had cheated on him on a vacation. And we were going through a really nasty is relative, but for me, it was very emotionally tumultuous release and letting go of something that was my security blanket and my comfort. My whole life was really like the stability and the rock in my life was pulled away. And so I was exploring, what does this mean for me? I had just gone through a mental health journey where I'd come off of medication for anxiety and depression. And I had quit my job because it was taking a toll on my mental health as well as my physical health. So I had basically hit a rock bottom. I had hit this point where it was like, okay, well, my tolerance level has been reached. It can't get worse. I'm not willing for it to get worse. So where am I going to go now? And what does that mean? What do I need to do? And that was my surrender point. That was my point of saying, okay, I'm willing to just witness. I'm willing to just be present with these emotions, with these feelings, with these thoughts, and really look at them gently as a gentle observer versus a self-critic, and allow myself to go through this and move through this with grace rather than trying to force or push my way through it, which was very new for me as someone who has been a type A overachiever in the past and a people pleaser and was somebody that, was always the best because that was the only way I got recognition. And that was so closely tied to my identity that I very often ignored what I wanted in order to be seen a certain way by others. So that was a really big change for me to prioritize myself and be willing to make myself number one when I, myself had never put my self-worth first. So now I live in Bali. I have a multiple six-figure nomadic business. I travel the world. I've got an adorable Bali dog. I have I have the most amazing clients. I mean, my life is amazing. Like, I eat fresh farmed fruit every day. I like go to the beach and swim in the ocean. My toes are in the sand every day. I meditate and work, 15 to 20 hours a week and make multiple six figures. I'm connected with the most amazing women all over the world. Like, my life has taken a very dramatic turn for the better, but that of course came with doing the inner work. So that's where I'm at now.
Okay. I love you so much. There's so much within that. The like number one thing that I just thought of is thank you for that introduction. It's a beautiful landscape of the journey that you've been on. And what I love about it is I think a lot of people would start with where they're at right now and how incredible life is now. But you really walked us through that. It took you having that act of surrendering to what you didn't know at the time, but surrendering to yourself, surrendering to faith, surrendering that to the belief that it would get better, that you would find a way, that you'd hit rock bottom, that you were going to build back up. And I remember that because I was there with you for part of it. Yeah. And I love that you've shared that with us, and even specifics of what has occurred in your life, because these are things that we are all dealing with. We are all struggling with to some extent within ourselves, but it tends to be what we don't see online. We tend to kind of keep that under wraps, and we focus instead on, but look at how great everything is. I feel amazing. Oh no, quarantine, no problem. I got this. When in actuality, if someone's going through something, it's so valuable for us to realize that and to witness it within each other, because we can create such deeper connection that way. So I really want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for sharing so authentically and so openly, as I knew you would, but thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it really is the key to connection. And I think that was one of the biggest learning lessons for me. I used to try to connect with people through the look at me, I got straight A's, and look at me, I'm getting a promotion. Yeah. Look at me.
I'm so great. Love me.
I have my shit together. Please don't see past that. Yeah. So, I mean, when I started getting messy is when I got really actually connected with people.
Oh, that's such a good statement. You got to get messy to really get that deep connection. I love that. I'm curious, for those of you who are watching replay or live, I just want to know, what out of Dayna's story do you resonate with most? Like, what about what she shared there about her personal story and where she's come and where she's at now and all the journey that she's been on? What do you resonate with? Because I know that there's like a piece in there. There was probably 4 or 5 pieces in there that I could resonate with personally, as well as knowing more of that backstory. But I really want to hear from you guys. So comment in and let us know what you can connect with there. And Dayna, what do you believe this is all about? This global pandemic, this massive shutdown of everything that's occurring, all of the emotions that are flowing and flying around, all of this, breaking through and also breaking down that's occurring. What's your take on all this?
Yeah. Well, it's such a good question.
I
know. Exactly. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I feel compelled to talk about is I see people who in the past have considered themselves like a healer or a guide, or they've started to activate their gifts in some way. Maybe that's even just as simple as resonating with being an empath, someone who's empathetic. Mm-hmm. They're now feeling really pulled to use their gifts in new ways. They're feeling, because all of us are so sensitive to the global collective generally, and now the global collective is in such a state of heightened emotion and is processing so much, because the majority of people have had their identity, their comfort, their safety taken away from them, right? Everything that they used as a reason to not follow their soul's calling has been taken away. You know, oh, well, I can't because I have this job and it's stable and it's safe. Well, maybe that person doesn't have that job anymore. Or, you know, oh, well, I can't because this is the only way that I can, you know, pay for this house that I'm attached to. Well, maybe you're not able to pay for that house anymore and you're actually not as attached to it as you thought you were, right? There's things that all of us in the past have considered really consistent and stable. And what's happening right now has shown all of us that anything in the past that we've ever considered safe or stable or comfortable is actually really fragile and is actually completely subject to the unknown of what will happen, that our brains can't ever preconceive as, you know, what is going to happen. And so really the thing that we're all learning, and I know what's been a huge lesson for me, is the only thing that we really have stability in and comfort in is our own integrity of our soul. The only thing that we have control over, you know, control, quote unquote, because there's really none. But the only thing that we can find stability in is the integrity of our soul. You know, when the world is collapsing around us, when our partner is freaking out, or when we lose our job, or when we, you know, our house goes into foreclosure, or when we, you know, when anything happens, anything and everything which could happen, because none of those things are actually stable. Who are we? How do we act? How do we show up in wholeness to our being? And that's really the only thing we have access to at any given moment that is stable. So that's been a huge thing that I've seen happening for everyone and for myself as well. And the other thing that I've really seen happening is I always call like rock bottoms is like when you hit that tolerance point and it's just like you've called in something bigger, like you accept the intention of something bigger and you're attaching to things that are keeping you back. And the universe says, well, I know you're actually wanting this big thing, so I'm just gonna like plop, pull the rug out from under your feet and like, yeah, and like boom, like face plant you so that you can see what you need to do in order to achieve this thing that you're actually being called to do. And that's kind of happened globally. Like we've all I saw this meme on the internet and it was like, the universe is saying, go to your room and think about what you've done. That feels so accurate. Is we're all being asked to say, like, where have you said that you care about the environment, but you're not actually showing it with your actions? Where have you said that you want to start a business, but you keep playing it small? Where have you said that you need to look at your relationships and things need to change in terms of boundaries, and now you're stuck living with that person 24/7? So anything that you had previously said, like, oh, I'll get to it one day, you're now being said, like, well, now's your time. So here it is. What are you going to do about it? So I think that's the other thing that I've really seen happening as well.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating that I think a majority of us, not everybody, but a majority, we pride ourselves on being busy and not necessarily having time for all the things we want. And it's even, for an example, whenever I talk to my dad, the response is often like, so like, how are you doing, or what's going on today? And his is usually, well, I'm pretty busy. And I even do it too back to him. Well, you know, I got a busy day going on. And it's like this sense of pride that we have so much happening in our lives. And right now, there's a totally different shift of focus. And for those who are at home with your sweet little babies that maybe you're pulling your hair out, that's okay. We get it. But if you're home with your babies, noticing that there's a shift in perspective. Suddenly now it's, okay, how can I keep them entertained? How can we engage with each other in this way? What games can we come up with? How can I keep myself sane while coming into this parenting role? It's no longer I'm trying to fit everything else in. It's just we have this whole day together. And for those of you who don't have littles at home, for you as well, you've got all this time. There's time available. And what are you doing with it? What are you choosing to do with it? And how are you working with the emotions that are coming up? And for those of you who do not have children at home and are working full time, maybe not a lot has shifted for you, but I want you to also pay attention to how are you processing the thoughts and feelings and emotions of those around you? Because I've talked to quite a few women who are working full time and their partners are not. And that creates a different dynamic in the household. And just bringing awareness and attention to how you are responding to this. And I love that what you had said, Dayna. I think it was the integrity of the soul. How do you keep your connection to self? How do you keep yourself grounded? How do you stay connected to your belief systems, to your values? That's what I believe is just like being blown in our face right now in a really big way on a global scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you described it. And it really doesn't matter, if you still have your job or you don't have your job or whatever it is, like your world has changed in some way. And that's kind of the coolest thing. I mean, if we were to choose something beautiful about what's happening, it's an active choice. Like you can actively choose to look at the beauty in any given moment. We are in this together for the first time, since I've been born, that I can really think of in the last X amount of years of human history. This is something that we're really in together. We're in this as a world. This is global. All of this is happening. It doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter what background you're from. It doesn't matter what your profession is or what your marital status is. All of us are going through this in some way, which is very rare and a beautiful opportunity to find connection in new ways, a beautiful opportunity to find relatability to people that you maybe previously have not looked at as relatable. This is an opportunity to look at them and realize that you are the same as them. We are all the same. And yeah.
It's so beautiful. I love anything that brings me closer to the remembrance that we are all connected. And for me, it's often coming into nature. I just like remind myself, or I can just feel that connection between how the energy that I am is very similar to the energy of the tree or of the birds flying or Dixie running around happily or whatever it might be. That whenever I get that reconnection or that remembrance that we are all connected, that we are in this together, is just so grounding for me and so nourishing to help me take that next step forward and whatever it looks like for me. Maybe it's choosing how I'm going to eat my food. Maybe it's launching a new coaching program. I have no idea, but having that connection makes a big difference. And I'm curious for you, Dayna, what do you do? Like, what are the things that you do when you feel a bit overwhelmed by all of this, or perhaps go into a bit of doubt because you are your own boss, you own your own business. Maybe you go into a little bit of doubt there. Maybe you're a little bit uncertain because you live in a different country. What do you do when that comes up? How do you process it?
Yeah, slow down, I think is the biggest one. A lot of people have a tendency when there's a lot of pressure to speed up, to try to push through it or force through it or find a solution. And it's not about finding a solution. It's not about fixing it, right? It's about being with it. Like I'm in Bali right now. I'm in a foreign country. I'm in Indonesia. I could think about the healthcare system here and like what would happen. And I could play out all of these contingencies of like what I would do if the world, suddenly ended, which it kind of feels like it is sometimes, right? I could play out these scenarios, or in the moments where I feel that anxiety creeping in because of these like future tripping thoughts about like what could happen, the only way to really bring yourself back is to slow down and be present. So there's been a lot of moments of taking a step back and realizing where I am and shifting back into a space of, wow, I'm so fortunate that I, for whatever circumstance it is that you have, but for my version of that has been, I am safe. I'm safe in a place where the local culture is very warm and receptive. I am in a place where I'm, with someone who's close to me. So I feel very held, and I am allowed space to emotionally process with another human. I feel more connected to my network more than ever because I've been having so many calls with my community online. I am also very fortunate that I took the leap and built my business at the time that I did, and that my income isn't tied to a specific economy, which are all collapsing right now. So I'm just taking the moment to look at where in my life can I have gratitude for what I have shown up in integrity for. And therefore right now it's blossoming because I've shown up and it's been something that is I've nurtured from like the truth of my soul. And so it's still supporting me in really beautiful ways. So again, slowing down and practicing that gratitude is always the solution to trying to not trying to find a bunch of different solutions that, you know, your brain can't conceptualize what's going to happen. And so running these contingency plans is often where humans,
it doesn't take us to where we want to go. It takes us to that place that we don't want to be anymore, that we don't enjoy. So in hearing you say that, thank you. I love that. It has kind of brought me to this realization. I don't know why I haven't seen this yet, but it's really just coming to fruition in this moment in my mind. It's all formulating that everything that I've been talking about for years about how women need to be stepping more into their feminine energy, not so that women can overpower men in any way like that, but just so the feminine energy can rise, is exactly what has been occurring, is that our feminine energy has been rising. We've been forced to. And so there's no point in focusing on that solution and that pushing and the how am I going to figure this out, because you can't yet. There are too many variables. There are too many uncertain factors. Therefore, it's a forcing you to just... And just taking that moment. You can't see. Can you see? There's flowers here. I'm sniffing a flower.
There we go. I knew you were like looking. There we go.
I got awkward. Anyways, you know what I mean? Sniff some flowers, have a moment, be in the moment, connect in with what makes you feel good, connect in with what are you feeling? And for an example of that too, something that I want to bring forward for those of you who saw my posts earlier today on Instagram, if you're watching this today, I posted about fear and how fear can hold us back. And I posted about the fact that I've been grieving today and in deep, deep grief of missing my mom. And at the same time, here I am having an incredible conversation with someone that I love about how we can look towards gratitude and slowing down. This is a multitude of different emotions and thoughts that are occurring. That's what it means to be human. We are not meant to be robots. We are not meant to constantly be focusing on the next step that's going to move us forward. It's about the dance of the feminine and the masculine and bringing those together, stepping back, slowing down, practicing gratitude. And Dayna, we talked about this before, but when you're inspired, you have so much strength and ability to just like, boom, take action. And that's that divine connection. And that's that inspired action that brings you into the masculine energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. There was some thought that came through when you were speaking that was, you don't need to do anything to be strong. You are strong by being. And so I think that is so true, number one. And I definitely recognize that when I surrender is when I am given the guidance of where I need discipline. So oftentimes we conceptualize cognitively, like with our analytical mind, our critical faculty of, you know, this is the thing that I want. And so here's steps 1 through 101 of what I need to do.
Freaking humans.
Yeah, exactly. But if we actually take like an aligned step 1, all of a sudden step 2 through 101 changes or collapses, and maybe there's only 62 steps now or whatever that looks like. But our brains aren't capable of actually figuring that out in advance. And so that surrender component is just being able to say, like, what's my next aligned action? What's the thing that it feels like not cognitively, analytically makes sense as the thing that's going to take me one step closer to my goal? And, there's been times where I've done things that made no sense analytically, and they brought beautiful, miraculous results. I think one story that I share of an example of that is at the time where I was in that rock bottom that I said at the beginning when I was talking about my history. I was in that basement suite in Calgary and I had no idea how I was going to get out of there. I had been pushing and trying to perfectly launch this course that I was running, and nothing was working. I was working, 12-hour days, and I was on multiple live streams a day and sending out emails and getting on calls and hustling. And nothing was working. And I was just at this breaking point. And I remember being like, okay, I see what's happening. I know I'm being taught that this is not the way. And so show me what the alternative way is. Like, what do I need to do? I surrender at this point. I just kind of let go. And I was like, I don't know how this money is coming in. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation, but that's okay. I don't need to know. I trust and have faith that I will be shown. And so that was the first time I ever thought that way. That was the first time I ever really felt that. And I did. I mean, I ended up having a client who I'd been working random freelance jobs with message me and say, hey, can we hop on a call? Yeah, I want to talk to you about like a retainer. And I was like, yeah, of course. And I got on the phone with her and I ended up signing a 5-figure client deal like 48 hours later.
And like what I hear in that too is even more so you were not attached to the outcome. And I think that that's the biggest thing is we're like, yeah, but I need this. Yeah, but I want this. Yeah, but this is what it is. And you were actually willing to go into that state of surrender and detach from the outcome. And then something you couldn't have even dreamt of, something you couldn't have even fathomed, literally like fell in your lap.
Yeah. And I thought about it, and I was like, I could have been so busy launching this course that I was like, oh no, I can't take on any extra work right now. And I might have not hopped on the phone with her if I had been in that state of being present and being willing to open up to receive. And oftentimes that's what happens. We block ourselves from receiving miracle synchronicities that are lining up to give us what it is that we want by being so focused on what we think that we need. And so that's a great way to frame it when you are in those moments where you're feeling the panic or you're feeling the anxiety, is to step back and ask yourself, like, am I creating a story in my head of the way I think I'm going to receive what I want? And if I am, how can I take a step back and be willing to allow it myself to receive it in whatever way it is meant to come in?
I love that. Yes. Yeah, so good. So something that I was just thinking of, and for those of you who are watching, maybe, especially if you don't have a business, this may maybe take it a little bit deeper for you. Think about one of those moments when you're just like sitting with your family and everyone's watching TV and it's not what you want to be doing, or you want to go meditate, or you want to do yoga, or you want to read your book, you want to do something that feels good, you should do it, but you just can't get yourself there. Ask yourself in that moment, how can I surrender into this to see what is my next best step, my next aligned step? And maybe it is to just sit there and notice your family and see the joy in their faces. Maybe it is to ask if everyone is willing for you to turn off the TV and everyone play a game together. Maybe it's you stepping away from everybody and going for a walk outside because there's daylight until like 9 p.m. now. It could be anything outside of what is already within that frame. And then for an example of like, well, I want to go meditate to create deeper connection, or I want to practice yoga because my body needs to move. That's one linear way of looking at it. Yes, it's a beautiful thing, but don't get so caught up in how it's supposed to be that you can't see the magic of what could be. Going for a walk for me is often more deeply connected to Mother Earth as well as to the divine than if I'm sitting in meditation. But I wouldn't have experienced that if I never gave myself that space to just try something different. So just as Dayna's saying this, like start noticing what are those like rigid stories you're telling yourself that I want this is the only way it's going to come to me, and start playing with how it could be different for you, because everything is possible and anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. It's a great way for it to be summarized. It's like, we think that we know exactly what's possible, and that's what we
like, our brains are like this teeny tiny amount of the universe. There's no way that we know the things we think we do.
Exactly. And that's really what we get wrapped up in, is like, oh, I think I know how I'm going to get that promotion, or I think I know how I'm going to like feel more connected to source. And it's like, you're always being intuitively guided. And oftentimes you're shoving that down because you're like, oh, no, I already made a plan for this.
Actually, that doesn't fit in with the plan I've got on paper here. So
that would be amazing. That would feel so good. But it's not what I wrote down on my list today, right? That's like a great common example. So I feel that.
What do you do when you want to come into a state of gratitude, but you can't get there? Like, have you experienced that before, where you're surrounded by so much beauty, that you have so many gifts in your life, that you love yourself, but there's something that's occurring. There's like an emotion or an energy or a block or something that's occurring, and you just can't get there. What do you do to shift that?
Yeah, so I just show myself some love and like allow myself to feel the shitty. Like, I think a lot of people suppress this feeling of like, oh my God. And EFT is something that you and I have, I think, both use as a technique. So you guys, if you're watching this, may have heard of it before, but emotional freedom technique, which is tapping on meridian points on your body, in order to release, exactly, certain emotion. And EFT is something I use when I'm in it, when I'm in that like anxiety, or I'm in that fear, I'm in that anger, or I'm in that sadness. That is one of my favorite tools because it is for actually moving through the negative. And the other thing too, like I say negative, but I also don't believe that negative, there's no such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing as a negative emotion. So also witnessing your quote unquote negative emotion, you know, maybe it's envy, maybe you feel envy and you're being shown like, where am I being asked to play bigger in my life through the reflection of someone that I'm envious of? Maybe you feel frustration and you're actually being shown where you're meant to have better boundaries with someone because you had expectations where someone didn't show up. Or maybe you're feeling sadness and you're being shown where you have unaddressed, shame or guilt because of blame that was projected onto you. Or maybe, you're always being shown something. You're not experiencing it for no reason. You're being gifted with an emotion that allows reflection. And so being with that, being like, oh, I can't get into a state of gratitude right now because that would require me bypassing this negative emotion, again, negative, this thing that I'm meant to address, to be shown how I can improve my life, again, how I can be in integrity with my soul. So I like to look at it, why am I feeling envious? Why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling frustrated? And move through it of like, okay, this is rooted in some worthiness. And what is the actual truth? What's the truth around this situation? What's my truth when I am in integrity? And coming back to that. And be kind with yourself. Like, again, like you said it best when you said, you're not a robot. Like you're supposed to feel your human experience. Like the journey of consciousness isn't about letting go of your human experience. The spiritual journey is not about letting go of your human. It's about advocating for your human and allowing yourself to see the human experience as a reflection of where there's work to do.
Yeah, it's gold what you're sharing right now, and I'm so glad that you brought this up. Then there's a phrase or a sentence that I've heard before, and I'm trying to find it, but I can't. But it's basically that everything that occurs in your life, every interaction you have with another person, everything that brings in envy, everything that brings in frustration, is all just there to help guide you deeper into yourself. It is never about the actual situation. It's what you individually allow that situation to be for you. And within that can be the greatest experience of self-connection, self-expression, and self-love if you're willing to see it from that perspective. When we hold on to that pressure and that judgment against ourselves and or against others, that's what creates that disconnect, and that's what makes us feel so negative within the emotion we're feeling. But for example, today when I was deep in my grief, I wasn't judging myself for grieving. My mom passed 13 or 14 years ago. I could be judgmental of myself. I could say I should be over this, but I don't, because there is no handbook that says that I should. It's just a societal belief, and I let that go. And so as soon as we can come into that state of how is all of this showing up to support me, to show me where I can grow, to show me how I can express and process more, that's the curiosity we get to live with. And that's what creates a state of contentment and joy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And again, like someone could have the same situation, external situation, and two very different internal experiences. And the reason why you're having your own internal experience is to show you something else about your own evolution, right? Whether it's a positive, whether it's a negative, it's the exact same thing. Like if you witness something positive of like, oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, you're being shown something that you really value and that you want more of in your life. Amazing. Oh, this really frustrates me. Oh, okay, I'm being shown where I maybe need to do some work around boundaries or what I want this to look like in the future so that this type of situation doesn't feel this way the next time. And I love what you said too, like there's no handbook, there's no rules. Just because, someone else had their own experience within that was different than yours, it doesn't mean anything. You're allowed to have your own experience, and that's what's so beautiful about life.
It is. And I think too that the more acceptance that you can create within yourself, it also generates acceptance of others. So if you have other people, like let's say that you're someone who doesn't express your emotion really fully and that feels okay for you, but there's someone in your life that does, it gives you more space to accept them as who they are without needing to understand them fully. And vice versa, if you're super emotional and you surround yourself with people who do not express their emotions as much, the more acceptance you have of your own emotion and feelings, the more others accept you and the more you accept them. It's just most of us walk around feeling like everybody else is judging you. And the reason that you feel that is because you're judging you. But as soon as you can soften that, first of all, you don't care anymore because you're like, well, okay, judge me all you want. I don't care. But also they judge you less because the energy that you're within, the vibration you're living in is completely different. And Dayna, I feel like you're a powerful example of this term that I learned when I went through my health coach training, which was the art of fitting out. And very much like they were talking about it through a nutrition perspective of when you start eating different foods than the average person, you're going to get some backlash from this. You're going to get some people thinking it's weird. How can you start fitting out more? But I feel like from your journey in your life, you just show up authentically as who you are in whatever way that is, however it looks, whatever's showing up for you always. And that's one thing that I know as someone who cares about you and who is a part of your life. I know I'd always trust who you're showing up as because I know you would never put a face on for me or for anyone else. And I think that in itself is just, it's power, and that creates the deepest connection that you can have.
Yeah. Wow. To hear you say that made me really emotional because that's, I think, been the biggest evolution in my journey. Is I used to wear masks for everyone to be the perfect daughter or the perfect sister or the perfect friend or the perfect wife or the perfect daughter-in-law. I had like these different kind of facades of what I thought that those things looked like. And I would be what I thought those were in order to receive the hopefully positive judgment from others that it was that I was looking for, that I had grounded my worthiness in. And I mean, it was painful. Like I lost a lot of friends and, I lost my partner. I remember the words of like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And my response like hurt so bad to say, but it was like, well, this is who I really am. And having to be grounded in the faith, knowing that that was more than enough, knowing that who I truly was more than enough. And that I only had myself and my own accountability for people seeing me in any other way other than my truth of who I was. And learning how to show up regardless of what was happening, regardless of who I was with, regardless of what circumstance I found myself in, as the truth of who I am. And that's something that a lot of us are not conditioned to feel free to do. So, but when you do, it's actually the most freeing thing that you can experience. It is liberation. Like it is true liberation to just be able to show up as who you are without caring, like you said, of how it's received, and knowing that for the right people, it's going to be received in the right way, but not being attached to that in any way.
Well, and you're right. It is so freeing. And to me, it feels like magic. And I don't remember where I shared this. I think it might have been in the group I'm running, the Empowered Woman Mastery. I think it might have been in that group, but I shared about the conference that I hosted in November last year. And the fact is, I couldn't have hosted that conference if I cared what every woman in that room thought of me. It's not possible. I am such a past people pleaser. I am so emotional that would have pushed me over the edge. I had to get to a place where I was secure enough in myself that I could have someone there completely dislike or despise what I was saying, someone there absolutely adore and admire everything that I was doing, and have every other end of that spectrum within that room and still be sure of who I am and still love who I am and go to bed at night feeling good about who I am. That's the only way it was possible for me to host that. And a big part of that is knowing what we were just talking about a moment ago, that everything that occurs in our life is there to support us to our own evolution. So when I trigger the fuck out of someone, it's a benefit to them and to me, because for them, they now get to look at something they couldn't see before because I was willing to stand in that position and take on that role. And for me, it helps reiterate how much I care about myself and that I can stand in my strength even if someone else doesn't like it. This is what power is. And to me, this is what true love is when we can love and accept each other in that way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's part of that journey of like when you stop judging yourself and allow yourself to be, you give space and permission for other people to do that too. And so if they're triggered by you or they feel a certain way about you, you recognize that it's just you're being a mirror for them. And that's part of the freedom is you stop taking on the responsibility for other people's emotional states and instead stay in the one that feels the best for that moment for you.
Mm-hmm. Which I think that kind of like coming back to this moment right now during this pandemic, I feel like that in itself is a really important message too, that for those of you who do have children who are going through a lot of emotions during this process, or if you have friends in your life that are coming to you and contacting you looking for support, or you just know that there are people that are going through the thick of things right now, it's not your job to make it better for them. It's not your job to fix how they're feeling. Your job as someone who loves and cares for them is to hold space, and that's it. And holding space doesn't mean finding a solution. Holding space doesn't mean saying, it's okay, it'll be okay, you'll be okay. That's not always what someone wants or needs to hear. They often just need to know that you're there, that you care, that you love them, that you're willing to listen if they want to talk, and you're willing to sit quietly if they want to just sit there in silence. It's about holding space always before trying to fix anything for anyone.
Yeah, I love it. It's perfect.
Dayna, I love you.
I love you too. So much. I really
You're such a gem, and I'm so grateful that our paths crossed in the time that they did and that they continue to cross. Dayna actually reached out to me I guess a couple of weeks ago, kind of when this all began, and just said, can we just connect? And we actually shared a session back and forth with each other. And it was so lovely to be able to just hold that space for each other, with each other, and see each other kind of in our gifts in a sense, and at the same time be able to fully receive that. And so I'm saying that because I want those of you who are watching to know that you get to lean on your people. You get to turn to your people. You get to turn to individuals like Dayna and myself to hold that space for you, to support you. You get to turn to your family members or your friends or people maybe you haven't talked to in years and just show up and say, hi. Hi, how are you? What do you need? Can I support you? Can I share how I'm feeling? Just allow that connection to be present, because it's one of our gifts as humans is we really have that deep connection. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Exactly.
So I've shared a few things that you have done in the past online, Dayna, in this group, but I'm wondering for those women here who are loving the words that you're saying, they're loving your vibe and they want to spend some more time with you. How do they find you? Where are you?
Yeah, of course. So I have a few places that you can just check out my message, get to know me a little bit more and explore how I'm kind of seeing things, if you like my perspective on how I'm seeing things happen, to get more information, to speak to your soul, to kind of continue to crack you open if you feel like that's what's happening. I have a podcast called Juicy Business Radio. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, all the places. And I have a blog as well on my website, which is rebelpreneurs.com. So like entrepreneurs, but rebelpreneurs.com. You can go check that out. And there's lots of articles on there about human design, about spirituality, about alignment, about building a business from a place of intuition versus hustle. So there's some really great info on there as well. And I'm on all the social medias as Dayna Lisa, like my name is on the screen here. You can follow me and check me out, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And on my website as well, you'll see my offerings. I offer some different intimate containers as well as workshop style things. But I highly recommend just getting to know me on those different places, because there's lots of ways to connect and get to know me and share in my story and my message through those places. So
love that. Thank you, Dayna. And if you want to hang out with Dayna in person, you should probably come with us to New Zealand. We're going to be in New Zealand together. It's going to be an incredible time. If you want to know more about that, let me know. But it's going to be incredible to be by the ocean together. I can't wait until that experience occurs. But for now, thank you so much for just being present and sharing your heart and sharing your wisdom and just being here and being in the collective. It's such a special and sacred place to me. And it feels really wonderful to have you here with us in the collective. So thank you, Dayna.
Thank you so much. So good. And I was reminiscing, I just have to tell you, I was reminiscing about Costa Rica this morning, and I was just laying in bed next to Luke, and I started laughing, and he was like, why are you laughing? And I was like, oh, I'm just remembering when we were stacking the suitcases in the back of the SUV.
You guys, okay, so going into my Costa Rica retreat, which was the first international retreat I'd ever hosted. And this retreat, like it was the exact right women at that retreat. Anyone else, I think, would have thrown it off. We had the weirdest, bizarre things occur that most people would probably judge and think were weird, but we just bust a gut laughing. We had so much fun. Yeah. Dayna, do you remember? So towards, I think it was the last day, I got all the girls to go into groups and then they would make up skits of all the ridiculous things that happened. And I remember literally falling on the floor, laughing so hard at everyone reenacting all the situations.
Oh my gosh, like I was just thinking this morning about like the spiders and about like the being in the back of like the Range Rover, like everything that literally made that so special. Like it was so perfect in so many
perfectly imperfect.
And those are the things, like you can't plan for them, right? Like you just roll with it. You're like, hey, it's happening. Like we're doing it. Like it's all gonna work out the way that it's meant to. And it bonded us so much, like right from the beginning. Like right from the beginning, there was that sense of camaraderie of like, we are in this together, you know, like we're all going through this experience together. And I think it's a beautiful metaphor for what's happening in the world today. But I was really reflecting on it this morning because I knew I was getting on this call with you, and it just brought me so many like giggles and love in my heart and joy. And so like, I just wanted to share that because like Deanna's talking about coming to New Zealand with us. Like you guys don't even understand how amazing it's going to be. So like, please come join us if you're like really compelled by this type of conversation and this type of energy. Like it's only this times a million in those type of, there won't be spiders and there won't be like,
we're going somewhere where we are safe and there's not going to be scorpions and cockroaches and things like that. New Zealand is a beautiful location. It is warm and there are not as many bugs. I'm very happy about it.
Different in that sense, but it'll be safe in the sense that you will have so much freedom to be yourself and you will be so connected, like unbelievably connected to the people who are there. So I just had to advocate for it for a second there because this morning just reminiscing on Costa Rica brought me so much joy. So
thank you for that, Dayna. And something I remind myself of is that you were in Costa Rica as well as another woman. We're both in Costa Rica and both of you are coming to New Zealand as well. And to me, that is a symbol of the camaraderie that's created and the connection that we can create, being together for a week when we're like all day, every day together, but also just in the way that when we hold space together like that, when we support each other, accept each other and come out of judgment, come into love, it is so memorable that it makes you want to do it again, which is a really special thing. So I'm so excited for it.
Me too. Yeah. Thank you for having me here. This has been amazing. I just love you so much and I appreciate you. Thanks for providing this space to share. It's so good.
Oh, I just a love gush right now. This is so good. Okay, so ladies who are watching, I want you, if you have not yet, please comment and send Dayna some love. Give her a big thank you for sharing her heart and being present with us. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying this with us and sharing in these stories. We love seeing the comments, so go ahead and comment in. If you have questions for Dayna at all, you can message her or you can comment in here and tag her, and I'm sure she'll come back and hang out. And I love you. I love you, Dayna. I love you, ladies. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah. I'll see you all soon. Bye.